Welcome, everyone. I am the director of the Cedarburg Art Museum, Samantha Landre. And here today for Artist Talk, we have professional artist Susan Steinhafel. So welcome, Susan.
Hi,
Thank you for
thanks.
being
Glad to be
here.
here. Yeah, thank
Great,
you.
great. Just a few things before we get started. We do have a couple of other artist interviews coming up. So we have Jack Bachuda, who was the past LMA president, and he's also a printmaker today. So we're going to have another one with him on May 27th at noon. Now, the links for those interviews will be available on Facebook and our website. So please feel free to tune in. It's free, it's open to the public. Also, share with anybody you think might be interested. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the artistic, mind of Susan.
Oh dear.
All
It'll be a
right,
short discussion.
not at all. Okay, so the first question, and I think something that you probably get asked a lot is, why are you an artist? Why do you do what you do?
Oh yes, yes. I think a lot of artists that are in all the art groups do get that question quite frequently, and I think it's kind of humbling. And I must confess, using the term artist is difficult for me, as I think many artists kind of feel this way. Most of us are being expressive and do it with a sense of inner desire, and it takes on more intimate and personal approach when applying what interest you've got and what you have. And it gives me great personal satisfaction to get an idea in my head and then create something that feels right to me. Almost a sense of self-expression that confirms my place in the world. Um, and as a humanitarian, I guess, and the need to create and have a voice, giving evidence and something tangible. So I try to make a difference with any creativity I might have. So that's, I guess, why I'm an artist per se.
Oh, nice. Well, and that kind of leads to another question. What do you feel like the role of the artist has changed during this COVID-19 pandemic or safer at home order? Do you feel like, you kind of felt that responsibility as an artist? Do you feel like that's changed at all?
It certainly has taken us all by surprise, and we really didn't have a lot of time to prepare, think about it. But I think personally, as creative people, we all want to reach out to other people and to express our support.
Mm-hmm.
And then from our own craft, I think that it gives us time and pause to really reflect on improving ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and to possibly, for some of us, recording our feelings in everything. And I know if we're really in a good mood and really are into our projects, then it reflects more happy colors and more. It really, art expression has um, a deeper way you look at things, from the viewer standpoint. If a person is happy and frivolous, if that's a word, then their colors are brighter and things, and that's their hidden meaning for part of what they're trying to tell you. And with the COVID thing, I think everybody is sort of melancholy, so maybe the colors will be a little more subdued and more expressive in that regard. So maybe our styles have changed a little bit. As for me, my style hasn't changed that much. I'm focusing primarily on keeping my other artists promoted and things right now, and so I certainly have thought about, in a photographer standpoint, recording some of the very, I think, historic things that are going on now. People in line with masks, waiting to get into retailers. Certainly that is an interesting point of view. But anyway, I'd be interested in hearing what other artists have done during this time. I know, as a plug for our online exhibition through the League of Milwaukee Artists, I thought during this time that we would paint and design things that would express our feelings during this quarantine time. And so that's what we're doing. And it should come out probably the first part of next week. And with that, the artists have either created or pulled something that best describes what they're feeling during this time with inspirational sayings to go with it. So it should be kind of cool.
It's going to be very interesting seeing what's going to come out of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
Oh, yeah.
every once in a while, on Facebook, you'll see somebody post what they've been working on and how it's reflecting what's going on. But you definitely haven't seen it all. So it'll be interesting when we can kind of come out of hiding.
Yeah.
What the world's
Yeah.
going to look like.
Yeah, it's kind of a reboot, actually. It gives us time to really stop and think. And I think many of us have said, oh, wow, we're leading such hectic lives. Just let me off for a minute and let the world stop so I can breathe. Well, like they say, be careful what you wish for. I think that's what everybody has been given, is our time to stop and reflect, have more time with our family, good or bad. But I think it's all good if you have that inner sense of positivity and, given a choice, positive or negative, what would you rather have? Something that you can glean from and say, well, this is the positive thing that came out of this horrible situation, or not. So
silver lining.
Yes.
Very good. All right. So just to backtrack a little bit. So what's your background? Were you professionally trained or are you self-taught?
Well, let's see. I know sounds kind of trite, but I think like most artists I've heard, they have kind of had this special interest ever since they were born. I've just been so interested and kind of leaned into that artistic type of thing all through school. And it kind of runs in my family to be artistically inclined. Both sides of my family have been entrepreneurs in business, and I think it takes a lot of creativity to do that. But I do professionally have, well, education-wise, I've had a couple of art degrees, a fine arts degree from Dixie University in St. George, Utah, and a bachelor's from Utah State, Logan, in advertising, commercial design, and photography. And from foundations like this, one takes it from there, and in a constant state of being self-taught, and being inquisitive to learn something more. College just helped me to have an open mind and to always keep learning. And there's a saying that I like, which is the enemy of learning is knowing. So you kind of have to really think about that for a minute, which is really a great saying. It always keeps me motivated that I'm always learning, and keeps me fresh. From an artistic standpoint.
Well, and we're always learning, so that's good to embrace it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the minute you think you know it all, you become stagnant.
Yes.
And it really inhibits you. And I think everybody knows Stevie Wonder, and he recently said something like, if you think you're the best, then you're totally not, or something like that. I can't quote it. Jokes and quotes I'm not very good at, but it's true. You have to be humble, open, and teachable, and always learning, and you'll always be on top of your game. Really. So it keeps it fresh.
Good. Well, so along with that, who or what are your biggest artistic influences then?
Oh, wow. Those change from time to time. And
that's good. Always evolving.
I know, it really does. I have to keep an open mind again. And what influences me most is from my art background. I recognize good art from not. And so at Utah State, they were ranked second in the country besides art school in LA or something. And
nice.
And we would come out just black and blue from critiques. And we kind of got used to that, it thinking our skin a little bit. Yeah. And so we recognized good art from that. We collaborated a lot of our efforts with the school in in LA. And so, but I'm just drawn to the inner artist that creates each work. So when I look at various different artists and admire them, it's their story that really kind of influences me. Whether it be the passion of art form, color and light from Monet, which I admire his
Hmm.
work, to the play on positive and negative space from Picasso. Um, I also admire artists like Ansel Adams and Andrew Wyeth, and their depth and inspiration is really beautiful. But you look into the work instead of at the work a lot,
Mhm.
and I find that their stories are really the inspiration, and the view behind their artwork is extremely inspiring. The more I study the life of Van Gogh, for instance, the more I uncover a little bit more of his intensity from his life as an artist.
Mhm.
And he once said, uh, I am seeking, I'm striving, I am in it with all my heart.
Ooh.
And I think that really says a lot about, him and exposes him, a little bit, wears his heart on his sleeve, which some people have a hard time with. But that statement was kind of charming, and it gave us kind of an insight on the man and the artist,
Oh,
you know. So
such an interesting guy. Did you ever read his diaries?
I have them, and I've got the letters
I got
from
it in my book
his.
now.
Yeah, I love it. I'm still reading it. I pick it up now and again. And it's so interesting. His brother, was it?
Yeah.
Um, um, I've got the letters from him, in
Mhm.
a book, not the real letters, of course, but
Oh,
there was a
huh.
book that was
I'll
compiled.
have to
We'll
look
have to
for
exchange. We'll
it.
have to exchange the books. I'll have to let you read it. But just an interesting life. The man was way ahead of his time.
Yeah, well, certainly.
Very
Certainly.
gifted, like most. I mean, you look at Michelangelo.
Mhm.
A lot of the gifted artists were just just so amazing.
Mhm.
I admire them all in their times that they lived in, what they had to endure. Um, I mean, the incredible things that they've accomplished. It's just inspirational. I feel like so small and insignificant, but
Well,
um,
but so did they. Many of those guys were not, and women, of course, too, hadn't been, recognized at all during their lifetime. So,
yeah. Oh, yes. And if they'd known how they'd be so recognized now and the value of their painting, they'd be just speechless. We've all seen the movies from Van Gogh, and I haven't seen the movie. I don't know the name of it, of Van Gogh, where he comes back to our times and he's walking through a museum,
hmm.
and someone says, "This is your work." And it's, I've got to get that movie. I don't know if anybody knows that movie, but it'd be sort of cool to see it, you know.
Well,
But anyway,
okay, Van Gogh aside.
yeah, okay,
I could talk all,
moving on.
but we won't.
Come
Um,
on,
so,
big topic.
how have you developed your career? Are you involved in any artist organizations? Something that I really admire about you is you're so good at getting your artwork out there. How do you do it? Do you
Thank
have
you.
any tips and tricks or any advice to give people?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think personal motivation, everybody and every artist has or should have that. Because once you have that determination and once you've decided what you want to do, either use it as a hobby or a personal self-interest, that's great. But if you decide to pursue it more and get your work out there, and you will glean a lot more than you think. A lot of artists are rather introspective, and maybe they don't want to talk too much about their art. It's a little too much out there for personal information or whatever. But if you decide to do that, you can learn by joining the different art groups. And there's quite a few around the area, and associate yourself with other artists that open your eyes to the diversity that's out there, and then actually will expand your own um, versatility and style, and it will just answer the questions that you've probably been maybe too afraid to ask. And but I've just enjoyed creating art in the general sense of the word for my own enjoyment, the sensitivity, willingness to always learn, and mindfulness has helped me in other areas of living. And I also have taken classes to learn different viewpoints and styles, but associating myself and being blessed with so many art friends, I'm very grateful for. I find all of them very interesting, and I always learn something so much from them all the time. So.
Mhm. Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed about this area is that the artistic community is so strong. So once you get in there, you guys are such good friends, that you can really, bounce ideas off of one another. And I think it's really rich that way.
Oh, it really is. And once this happens, there's a snowball effect, and it's so contagious. Once you get into the reasoning why an artist does what they do and how they do it, it just expands your whole understanding of that person. And so I've always been an advocate of not only the art but the artist, and how they express themselves. And it just breaks the barriers of prejudice, and it breaks the barriers of insecurities. And I'm sorry, my clock is going on. And things like that. So developing that sense of appreciation is what I really like to do with any artwork or art organization that I'm a part of. So.
Great. Great. All right. So, what is your artistic process, and do you feel like it's changed at all during, the safer at home order, or perhaps it hasn't at all?
Well, I think we might have touched on that a little bit earlier,
Mhm.
by kind of exploring that. I think it's given us time to think about our artwork um, a little closer, and it's taken us, given us time to think more about it for sure, and expand upon that, and to talk to other artists
Mhm.
and get a feel of that. And I mentioned that next week, hopefully, our online um, exhibition will be up, and so you can see some of the processes that they've done to kind of share with the rest of the world on what they've been thinking about, some of the inspirational quotes that they've come up with. So it should be kind of cool to see that.
Great.
Hope
That'll
that
be very
answered it.
exciting to see.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, everything is so new.
I'm
I
sure
don't,
it
I have no idea. I don't know. I don't have any idea how it's going to turn out or whatever. We're just like flying by the seat of our pants at
We're
this
all
point.
trying. Yep.
No, well, if anything, we can look at the intentions of everybody's heart and say, hey, we're
Yeah.
all in this together. This is so new for everybody. There's no practice run on this.
Mhm.
And it's very avant garde. So it's like, we have no other choice uh, to be on board with everybody. I mean, this whole thing has leveled our playing field.
Mhm.
Everybody is in this together. I mean, we've heard that over and over again, and it's kind of, we don't want to hear it anymore. But it's just true, and I think if anything too, we can glean that positiveness from it, that in never before in history have we all been on the same playing field, that we've all taken an interest in each other and
Mhm.
review our lives. So
Right. Great.
anyways.
All right. Well, this is my favorite question.
Uh-oh.
What is the best advice you've ever been given?
Oh, wow. Well, let me think here. There's been so much, you try to mentally think about it all the time, keep it in your mind, write things down, keep a diary. I think my dad, he would tell me, um, always finish what you started. And so I think those are pretty um, predominant words, are very simple words, but it really reflects in our artwork. It reflects in anything that we might just start out to do. I know we've got maybe a lot of unfinished projects and whatnot, but it really gives us a sense of completion. It seems to complete anything I do in life and support completeness in any task I do. And I find satisfaction in most everything I do when I listen to the advice of my dad, finish what you start. So I think that pretty much is maybe the best advice overall.
Well, it's really great advice. Do you see that reflecting a lot in, yeah, your kind of artistic process, in that if you start something, you finish it even if you don't like it? Or do you give yourself
Yeah.
permission to, you know what, maybe this is not the greatest, and you sort of
Yeah.
move forward?
Yeah, well, I've kind of toggled between what you're leading to is when it from an artistic standpoint. Sometimes we're working on something and it just doesn't gel, and we keep pounding ourselves and beating ourselves up, saying, "Ah, I want to get this finished, and why am I not getting that?" That channel of inspiration, and it's, well, a lot of different reasons, because life will take you in various different fluid ways, but I've always given advice to other people. It's like, well, if you get stuck, either that or writer's block or whatever, it's always good to breathe new life into it, new air. So put it aside, give yourself, like you said, permission to stop for a minute, but keep it in mind you're going to finish it, and
Mm,
which you will. And so start something different. I often say that to people. They come to a sort of a wall, and I say the best way to get over that wall is to jump,
mm,
which means jump into something completely stimulating, but still of interest of you and creative, and change course. Maybe do something that will stimulate your creative mind in whatever it might be they've always wanted to try. Pick up that for a while, and that'll distract your mind or your block, and then go back to that first piece, and you'll look at it with new eyes, and you'll go, ah, I get it, okay, and then you're working fast and furious and you complete it. So, and then you've accomplished two things: you've rejuvenated your soul, you've completed that first art piece, and you've gained another aspect about art or
mm-hmm.
things. So
A learning lesson.
it is, but completing what you've started is very satisfying, and then you can resolve that. It's like writing a book and finishing that chapter, and then you know having it completed. Nobody likes to have an unfinished story, so um, unless you're writing a mystery. but but life is kind of mysterious. But to have completion is always a good thing, no matter what. And in little things in your life, if you even on a daily basis, just completing any task or anything you want to do always gives us a sense of confidence and completion, whatever it be. You need to just give yourself little prompts and encouragement during the day too. That's always kind of a little game that I have, that I complete a task, whatever it might be in your day, and then it's like, oh, good, I've accomplished so much today,
Yeah,
and so anyway, I'll
great.
stop rambling.
That's wonderful advice. All right, so let's move on to kind of the next section of our artist talk here. So I'll pull up some images that
Oh
you
boy.
create, artwork that you created, Susan, and then I'll have you go ahead, talk about the medium and the subject matter, and just, give us any input you want to give.
Okay.
I know, it's exciting.
Depends on how you look at it.
All right.
Yeah, great. Yeah, well, I've given you kind of a diverse collection of what I do, because it is kind of an interview. So I am not a person that likes to toot my own horn, but I guess during this interview, it's like, okay, here's my opportunity, I guess, and
Yep.
makes me feel kind of weird. But I thought art is so it crosses a lot of different areas besides the traditional drawing and painting. And so what I've given you is like a cross section of kind of what I do. And I think it takes some creative aspect to do all of these different things. So what I have given you is not just basic art. It's and you'll see as we go along some things that are different. Now, this what you're viewing now is a photography piece, and in my particular photography style, I've been trained in fine art, and so that I always feel more comfortable when I present any of my artwork. I like it to resemble um, fine art or art that's been hand rendered or painted. And so with this piece, I use very little Photoshop, but I kind of play around with a little bit. And so this one was doctored a little bit, but I thought it worked with this piece without making it look too overly garish. Um, and this piece also I put onto metal, and that's a totally different angle to give the artwork a whole new different appeal and different forms. So I enjoyed this piece. I love nature, and so that's kind of my genre for my artwork. So this is, of course, goldfish and a lily pond. And I just really enjoy the colors and the composition. And I guess that about sums that up.
Perfect. And I do want to say I've seen your work on metal before, and it really gets this nice iridescent quality too that you don't get when it's printed on traditional mediums. So
Yeah,
just
it kind of
something
breaks it up
extra.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, this piece it's a monoprint, and I heard you mentioned Jack Pachuta. He will be speaking later, so be sure to tune into that. That will be really cool. I'm sure he'll go into more detail than I have time for now, but this piece won first prize or first place at the Anderson Art Center that the League of Milwaukee Artists has currently. And they are closed right now, of course, with the COVID thing, but they're going to reopen, and it will be extended through the end of August. And then my work will be shown in a special gallery upstairs in January in 2021. So me
Nice.
and a few other artists. So yay! It's kind of a fun thing. But this is monoprint, and it's created on a 100-year-old printing press. And like I said, I like nature, and um, I created a background run on the press, and Jack, as a plug for him, he will explain it in greater detail. It's a multi-step process, and each piece takes about 20, 30 hours to do. Um, and you figure out a background, and then the background sort of tells you what needs to be done on top of it. This piece originally, from what the background looked like, I wanted to have like a scene of like um, a beach scene in front with some birds, some shorebirds, and then the background to be a lighthouse and whatnot. But it just seemed to have, it lacked a lot of presence. There's a lot of empty space, and I like to work with positive and negative space, and so this idea came up. My mentor that I have, Paul Yank, he I've been taking classes from him for the past 5 years or so, and he said, I see a bird here in this space, and I thought, I was thinking about that too, but so taking a class from him and being in class with several other artists, we all bounce ideas off of each other, and it's really kind of cool. And so I thought, yeah, that gives confirmation to me. So I put the bird in, I put the lily pads in there, or whatever, and the goldfish, and the background that you see there, it's a shoreline, is actually the exact shoreline off of Sanibel Island, and I was gonna use that silhouette um, for that previous artwork, but I thought, well, this will work, but I'll take out the lighthouse and just put, a little, tower back there or house or something. But that profile is actually the shoreline from a photograph that I had. That's just a little insight, but it is called Moon Dance, and it is um, a night scene, and it's got Japanese characters in there that say Moon Dance in there someplace, because I'm kind of fascinated with Japanese characters and their writing. Um, and let's see what else. But it looks like the bird is kind of reaching up to the moon, and the fish are down there kind of hanging out. But anyway, that's
That's
about,
very charming.
about it for that one.
It's very pretty. All right. So next one.
Yeah, this one I just tossed in there to kind of show a little diversity, because I really am interested in a lot of different things. This is an oil of some pears, and obviously, and so some artists, they're happy and very content with just doing one art, like some people might say, oh, I've been doing oil painting for 50 years, or I've been a watercolorist solely for that long. And it's good to be recognized as that particular artist for that particular medium, and that's, if you're promoting yourself, you certainly want to keep consistency like that so people can recognize your work. But I'm kind of a wild child, like to shake things up and try different mediums. And I think it's by habit, because you go to college and I had like a fine art major and art in general. And you just try a lot of different things. So it just intrigued me to explore different mediums.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just one of them. And I've done a lot of other things too. And then this one, like I said before, I kind of preempted you on this surprise. I find that people don't really think, well, maybe they do, that art, um, design, and landscape design is a form of art. And so I tend to get a little bit more artistic and sometimes do 3D. This is just one little example of a garden that I designed up. And I've done a lot of other ones, but some get a little bit more detailed, and it almost looks like a painting instead of just a one-dimensional graphic. But that's another thing I really enjoy. I've been doing landscape design for people for the past 35 years.
Oh, wow.
And so it kind of brings out the left brain in me working with the right brain. So I am currently now working on my Master Gardeners, in which I never had time to get it. But I know a lot about plants, and I love them. And I've had my own garden in the West Bend tour of gardens for a couple of times. So it's been fun, to do that. But nothing like the outdoors. And next I want to do plein air, which combines, of course, the outside and painting. So that kind of brings it all together for me. So, well, I had done plein air when I was in school, but I haven't done it lately. So that always is intriguing. So
definitely,
anyway,
full circle. You're inspired by nature in your artwork, and you're working with nature here. So it all makes a lot of sense. Those creative energies.
Yeah, it does.
Ah, there you are.
Oh yeah. I know. Yeah, well, something that I've always personally really loved is cooking. And so I am intrigued by, just the chemistry of it, the whole um, aspect of it. Some people think, oh, it's just a recipe, you just do it, and it's cooking. Well, yeah, but there's a lot more to it than that. And the blending of different herbs and spices and temperatures and humidity, and I mean there's a lot more to it, and so that was more in depth to me than I first believed. But anyway, I think that that lecturing in front of people and doing expressive edible art is fun. So here I am giving a cooking demonstration, and which I really enjoy. So I've done that uh, for different organizations. So it's kind of fun to do.
Oh, very fun. There's a lot of artistry in cooking for
Oh,
sure.
there is. I mean, you look at Japanese cooking, and I mean, if you ever go to a restaurant and they just plunk it on your plate, it's not very appetizing. I mean, you eat it, you're hungry, it smells good.
Mhm.
But cooking involves all the senses. And the one I really like that I lean on a lot of times is presentation. And that brings out your creative art aspect. Back to the Japanese food, it really is artistic. If you look at how beautiful they display the food, you almost don't want to eat it because it's just so beautiful. But that makes it really appetizing and appealing and adds a new dimension to eating. So
Okay.
anyway, I try to do that at home and
Just,
and
just a
stuff.
Renaissance woman.
Oh, oh yes, that's me. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so that's the end of the slideshow. Okay,
Okay.
so hello again.
Yeah. Uh,
Well, do you have anything you want to plug? Are you on, Instagram? Do you have any websites you like people to see?
well, actually, I'm still working on that. I've got a website that I've been working on for the past 5 years. So
Ooh, now's the
I'm not.
time to finish it.
There you go. We didn't say the timeline. Just that we'll finish it. I know I'll finish it, but it's getting to it. But right now, my focus is, and I really love it. I really am passionate about um, the League of Milwaukee Artists. I'm their exhibition chair there, and I've been promoting the artists and all the things that we're all involved in for the past few years. And um, I really love that. So I have been doing that. Um, I kind of mentioned that the Anderson Art Center, we have work there. I think you can still see it on their website. The Anderson had their big grand opening, and I was so excited because the league has been involved with the Anderson Art Center in Kenosha before, and so when I began as their exhibition chair, I continued that relationship, and working with them has just been awesome. They're really a great bunch of people to work with, very creative and passionate about the arts, and very supportive. And so they chose us to be a part of their gallery as one of the first art groups in a year, because they've been renovating this big, beautiful mansion and updating it and doing a lot of changes, millions of dollars. And so they said, you want to, be our first exhibition. And it wasn't just a room, because they have several gallery rooms,
Mhm.
but it was the whole museum.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, cool. The artists are just going to be so excited. And so it was really wonderful to be part of that. And they had this big gala opening with the mayor and all the architects, and they had family from the Anderson family come flying in for this thing, and
Oh.
it was just really cool. The museum was packed. A lot of the artists were there, and it was just really, really something that every exhibition chair would hope for their organization.
Mm-hmm.
And then the COVID thing happened, and it was like, it's like, oh, well, it's kind of a life lesson. You can't get too complacent. You have to just always have an open mind and don't get so cemented into one place. You always have to be flexible. And so that's what we have. But they have extended our exhibition, which was wonderful, till the end of August, and et cetera, et cetera. And so they too are doing an online exhibition. So you can look onto their Facebook, Anderson Art Center Facebook, and then you can see their different vignettes of all the artists that are there that are showing. So that's really, really nice. And another thing that I want to plug that has changed with the COVID thing is the Groman Art Museum. Well, not art, they're the Groman Museum in Milwaukee. They were planning on having us in one of their galleries, but with the COVID thing and everything, they postponed it until next May. So that will be something wonderful. And for those who are not familiar with the Groman Museum, they're affiliated with MSOE, which is the Engineering School of Milwaukee Engineering School. And so they're all about men at work and everything about that humanitarian effort with work and men. And so the exhibition will be called Art Work. And so all of the artists that we have in place right now have developed artwork that is specifically for the show, that involves some type of humanitarian effort and work. And so it really has a lot of depth, kind of like the last art exhibition that we had at the Cedarburg Art Museum. That was, I thought, very contemplative, and I thought it'd be perfect for this time of year. We started in January, remember?
Yep.
And I titled it The Human Spirit, and little did I know it would have a lot greater meaning now than ever. But it was really nice. Like I said before, I like to plug the backgrounds of what comprised the work and the thought process of every artist. So they put a little blurb about what that piece, how that piece reflected the human spirit. So I thought you guys did a fantastic job
Oh.
in curating it, thanks to Mary Shamati and your leadership. It just all came together, and it was really beautiful. Everybody had a really interesting bit of dialogue for each of their works.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to enhance every exhibition that I do with just that, having a little bit of insight on how that art was created and what their thoughts are. It not only makes the experience more interesting and it gives education to people, but it also sells the work better. So it's kind of like, uh, you know, have to think about that too sometimes.
Yeah.
But you can't always put that in the forefront. What we do is out of the love of expression.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the rest will fall in place. It's like build it and it'll come.
Of course. Of course. Yep. The Human Spirit show is really visually beautiful and I think very meaningful. And it took on even more meaning, during this COVID crisis. We had a couple of, Tom Smith, one of the artists, talked about depression. It was, I think, so meaningful. And to all those of you who are listening, if you didn't get a chance to see it, we did do a couple of virtual tours that are on our Facebook page. So be sure to check that out. We have kind of a quicker run through, we could spend hours going through all the pieces. So it's just kind of
Oh, yeah.
a nice go
Nice.
through. But definitely check it out. And anything else to plug?
Um, well, let's see. Look for the online exhibition through the League of Milwaukee Artists. Oh, and then I also am part of the Herb Society. I do herb lectures. So if anybody needs something like that, but that and designing herb gardens or butterfly gardens or any kind of theme gardens I do. It's kind of fun. I'm trying to think of any other or fun plugs, but if you want to join the League of Milwaukee Artists or the Cedarburg Artists Guild. Those are two wonderful organizations that are local, and there's a lot of other multiple local organizations that I encourage everyone to check out because you don't have to be like totally immersed in it and have a lot of responsibility just to glean the inspiration from other people, to go to the meetings, to see their programs. You can be a very passive member if you want, but it would really enhance your whole art experience to join. So none of the groups have pressure to be president or whatever.
Sorry.
It's your own motivation on
Take
what
the
you can share.
pressure.
Yeah.
Good.
So people are going, oh, I'm not a joiner, I can't do it. I mean, there's people that are part of any different groups. They can be part of it, but they don't have to be subject to a big responsibility. But you really learn a lot, and you gain some friendships that will be more than you expected.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Well, then, to wrap this up, if anybody wants to find more information about the Cedarburg Art Museum, please check out our Facebook. We're also on Instagram, or our website, cedarburgartmuseum.org. You can sign up for our newsletter, even our membership if you're interested. We're always looking for volunteers too. But otherwise, thank you so much for your time, Susan, and thank you for everybody listening in. It
Well,
was
thank
such a
you so
pleasure having
much.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Here we go.
Good. Yeah,
All
thanks.
right. Well, take care and stay safe, everybody. We hope to see you very soon.